I think of Halloween as an American holiday. And when I say holiday, it really isn't a holiday in the sense of like a public holiday. People don't get the day off. And yet it's been wildly successful commercially. I think it's only second now to Christmas in terms of money generated. A quarter of all candy sold is sold for Halloween. So it is a moneymaker, and so it'll go forward. But it is a greatly transformed holiday. So we just take the word itself. It's a contraction of All Hallows Eve. Hallows means saint, like hallowed grounds. The next day is a Catholic holiday, and that's All Saints' Day. And then later another holiday was added called All Souls' Day. And we know them through Mexico, the Mexican Days of the Dead. But they're also celebrated in Eastern Europe and sort of sporadically around the world. The Irish brought Halloween to America, Halloween as we know it, and it came with the potato famine. So as much as we can talk about, there's roots back to ancient Egypt, there's roots back to this source or that, it really is an Irish. And when I say Irish, it's a Celtic holiday. Halloween is now sort of formalized as October 31st. When it was a Celtic holiday, when it was originally sort of being practiced, it wasn't specific to that date. We have a very linear map. We have it divided into days very specifically, etc. They kept time really through the moons, through a lunar calendar. And there are 13 full moons would make up a year. We have the solstices, and those are the shortest and longest days of the year. The end of June, the end of December. And then we can find the days sort of between, where the days are in and the nights are sort of in balance. And then those are the equinoxes. Okay. What's interesting is the Celtic calendar is those aren't the sort of the powerful days, it's the days between, the days that are centered between those. And so we have these 4 festivals. Those were the important days. And those festivals are often now called fire festivals. The significant one is Samhain. And Samhain was seen as the end of the summer. And what I think is so interesting, it was perceived as a gateway from life above ground, which would be growing things, to winter life below ground, seeds. And that is, in effect, a harvest holiday. This is the day which one would sort of celebrate the end of harvest. And there's some belief then that if anything was collected after that, it was evil. So you didn't harvest anything past this date. So it's a significant moment. In many ways, it was perceived as the beginning of the year, the next day. Any questions about that? Any questions? Oh, I wish you had questions.
How do you pronounce the other ones?
Okay, Beltane is what's opposite. Beltane means Baal. In fact, if you are familiar with when Moses comes down with the tablets, the 10 Commandments, he finds his people have reverted back to earlier Semitic religions. And one was Baal. That was the god, the graven image. And he was horrified that these people were worshiping these, and these are Semitic religions. Semitic would be people spoke Hebrew, or the people who are Arabic. Okay. Yeah.
That was spelled B-A-A-L.
Yes, it is, and in fact, it's B-A-apostrophe-A-L, Baal. And we're going to find all these sort of, I think, interesting variations of spellings as we go through different religions. So, if you remember the term etymology, Etymology is again looking at the origins of words, and words as they go from Latin to French to English, Old English to whatever. Spellings do through all these sort of interesting sort of routes. But Beltane means Baal's fire, and Baal was the god of the weather, basically. He was associated with storms, especially or spring rains. And as again, these are called fire ceremonies, and these were celebrated with fires, and these usually with bonfires. And by the way, bonfire means bone fire. I thought that was pretty cool. That's sort of creepy. A lot of it was like after harvest, after slaughter of animals, they had the bones, and then that is sort of the basis, I guess, of some of the fires. And when I mentioned fires, especially with Halloween or Samhain, the fires would be gathered into a single, every fire in a village. And try to think of these villages. We don't have the populations like we have now. Obviously, no electricity. Sorry, I'm going to be coughing. When it, when electricity goes off for a few hours, we panic. And we sometimes we realize that we're that close to almost chaos. But could you imagine living in a small village and it's getting colder and the harvest is in and things are not promised. We don't have weather forecasts. We don't have the knowledge that we're familiar with. And the villages often are surrounded by large woods with animals. You're talking about spider monkeys. They'd be happy to have spider monkeys. I think there were wolves and other animals there. And I just find that it must have been very frightening to sort of leave what was familiar, maybe even the warmth of the fire. So all the fires were gathered into a single source and extinguished. And that night, there were no fires. The next day, they would create fires with friction. And the friction fires would then be spread throughout back to the other homes. That'd be rebirth of for the next year.